2008, when the U.S. economy crashed, I had a coaching business, and all of a sudden, over half of my clients within a few months canceled their coaching. I just bought my first new house. Life was great. To all of a sudden, I can't pay the mortgage. I have to foreclose on my house. I'm living on credit cards. I went, okay, I got to figure out what the world's most successful people do for personal development, and I got to do that. And I ended up assembling 6 of the most timeless personal development practices. And within 2 months, I had doubled my income at the height of the 2008 Great Recession. I started training for an ultra marathon, which I hated running, and I wanted to transform my limiting belief that I couldn't run. My life changed so fast. I told my wife it felt like a miracle, and it was all because of this morning routine. I started teaching it to other people, and now it's millions of people around the world have read the Miracle Morning and do the practice, and here we are.
Well, top of the morning to you, and welcome to It's a Good Life. I'm your host, Brian Buffini, and today we have a very special guest, someone who I've been hearing about for a number of years through many of my peers and friends, but also many of my clients. His name is Hal Elrod. He's the author of the New York Times bestseller, and recently significantly updated and expanded The Miracle Morning, which is actually the first book I read to start this year. For those of you who may be less familiar with Hal's journey, let me give you a quick backstory. At 20 years old, he was hit head-on by a drunk driver and was pronounced dead at the scene. And many of you know my story. I was 19 when I became in my motorcycle accident. So when I first read that in his book, I was very connected. Amazingly and miraculously, he pulled through. But not to be done, like many of us, he's been on the journey of life. At 29, his business failed, leaving him buried in over $500,000 in debt. And then worse to come, at 37, Hal was diagnosed with a rare and life-threatening cancer. But through these challenges, Hal has developed what he terms the Miracle Morning. He's become a living example of resilience and transformation, and his philosophy has helped millions change how they start their day and ultimately their lives. Hal, it's a pleasure to have you. Happy New Year to you. I'm delighted we finally get to meet.
You as well, Brian. We both were talking. Your name has come up so many times. Hey, do you know Brian Buffini? We have a lot of Miracle Morning practitioners are also in your training programs. Go to your events, and so yeah, it's cool to finally connect.
That's great. Well, we're excited, and I think it'll be great if we can give people a miracle new year. Would be great. Right. So let's dive right into the Miracle Morning. What prompted you? You've had all these challenges and difficulties in your life, but what prompted you to start the practice of the Miracle Morning?
So it goes back to, you mentioned that financial crash, 2008, when the U.S. economy crashed. My business, which was growing, I had a coaching business, so we have a lot in common. Yep. And all of a sudden, over half of my clients within a few months canceled their coaching because the economy was affecting their sales, and they weren't able to sustain their income. And so I went from, I just bought my first new house, life was great, to all of a sudden, I can't pay the mortgage, I have to foreclose on my house, I'm living on credit cards, and I got really depressed, as anyone would, and if you've been through that kind of financial strain. And one of my best friends, I reached out to him desperate for help. I said, hey, I don't know what to do, man, I need your help. And he said, I want you to listen to this Jim Rohn audio, and I want you to implement it. I said, okay. Is that going to make me more money? And he said, it's going to give you the mindset that you need to do whatever you want with your life. I'm like, all right. So during that audio, Jim Rohn said, your level of success will seldom exceed your level of personal development. And what happened, Brian, is I quantified it when I heard it. I went, okay, wait a minute. On a scale of 1 to 10, I want level 10 success in every area of my life. On a scale of 1 to 10, my level of personal development is like a 2 or a 3. Oh. I don't have consistent daily rituals and routines that are enabling me to grow, develop my mental, emotional, physical, spiritual capacities. And so this is the disconnect. I want this level of success. And I think for most people, but we don't have the personal development practices that will get us to become the person that's worthy and capable of creating that success. So I ran home and I went, okay, I got to figure out what the world's most successful people do for personal development, and I got to do that. And I ended up assembling 6 of the most timeless personal development practices, not just one. Any one of these will change your life, but as my friend Robert Kiyosaki said when he had me on his show, Hal, the Miracle Morning is the right name for your book because when I do all 6 practices, they're called the S.A.V.E.R.S. He said, I experience miracles in my marriage, my health, my mental health, my business. And so I woke up the next morning, I did all 6 practices, and I felt from depressed and hopeless to excited, confident, and hopeful. And within 2 months, I had doubled my income at the height of the 2008 Great Recession. I started training for an ultra marathon, which I hated running, and I wanted to transform my limiting belief that I couldn't run. And I went from being depressed to confident. So long story short, my life changed so fast. I told my wife it felt like a miracle, and it was all because of this morning routine. And she said, "It's your miracle morning, sweetheart." She said it kind of just joking, and it stuck. I started teaching it to other people, and now it's millions of people around the world have read the Miracle Morning and do the movie or do the practice, and here we are.
Amazing. And again, how it's taken us so long. So Jim Rohn was my mentor for decades.
Wow.
And to hear you, and I love the fact that people who are a little bit younger, able to challenge and encourage people to get in touch. All Jim Rohn stuff is free today.
Yeah.
It's all on YouTube. All of Ogmandino's stuff, it's free today. It's on YouTube.
Yeah.
And if you go on like Ogmandino stuff, there's like very few views of just this liquid gold of wisdom and insight. And I'm a guy that it's transformed my life. I was in the coaching business in 2008 too. And, we went from 450 employees to 120,
wow.
At that time.
Yeah.
And so again, it's these routines, it's these practices. Everybody wants the good life, but not everybody wants to pay the price to get there. There is a price to pay. And we love a good acronym here at Buffini Company, like anybody. You mentioned S.A.V.E.R.S. I think it's one of the key components. Obviously, it's the whole system. Yeah. Can you walk us through the S.A.V.E.R practices and what these 6 things mean?
Yeah. So the first S in S.A.V.E.R.S is silence. Starting your day with prayer, meditation, breath work, right? Really getting centered for the day, calming your nervous system, letting go of any stress that you're holding inside your body. So silence is the first practice. The A is for affirmations, and I know we'll unpack this, but not your dad's affirmations or your grand, like not the goofy, cheesy affirmations, but affirmations that literally utilize neuroscience and neuroplasticity to rewire your brain for success. The V is for visualization. And just like the world's greatest athletes visualize themselves performing at their best before they ever step on the court or the field, that's what we're talking about here, is utilizing that in your life before you step into the office or into the kitchen with your family. The E in S.A.V.E.R.S is for exercise. And you don't got to go to the gym in the morning, but we're talking about moving your body to get the blood flowing to your brain throughout your nervous system. The R in S.A.V.E.R.S is for reading. No rocket science there, right? Reading books that'll give you the knowledge you can apply to improve your life or your business. And the final S is for scribing, which was originally journaling, Brian, but the J would have made the acronym awkward. So,
well, it would have been big in Czechoslovakia. I want you to know, if you'd have put the J at the end, it would have been big in the Czech Republic.
I've never thought of that before. That's so funny. My wife's Polish, so not too far away. But yeah, so and again, I'll say Robert Kiyosaki, when I mentioned this earlier, when he was interviewing me, he said, "Hal, any one of the S.A.V.E.R.S will change your life." He said, "But I've interviewed and I've been around successful people for my whole life." He said, "Any successful person on the planet swears by at least one of the S.A.V.E.R.S, probably 2 or 3. Right. But he said, I've never met anyone in my 30 years of personal development that did all 6 of these ancient best practices, not every once in a while, but to start every single day." And that, I think, is the power of the S.A.V.E.R.S.
Yeah. No, it's incredible. And, you talk about silence. So for me, and we'll dive in here, I mean, it's such a challenging thing. And I have a hyperactive mind, business, creativity, all that stuff. And so I got exposed to Father Thomas Keating decades ago with Contemplative Prayer. And that was massive for me. And I know many people use many methodologies for getting to silence. The reason why that has helped me so much, and I can tell you right now, my wife knows when I'm practicing contemplative prayer in the morning and when I'm not. My golfing buddies know when I'm practicing contemplative prayer and when I'm not. My employees know when I'm practicing contemplative prayer and when I'm not. And it's one of those things I was just sharing with you. I've had a very disciplined routine myself for many years, had a series of events that just knocked me sideways. And then I didn't get back on the horse right away. And that period of time, I would say, as I look at the biography of my life, will not be the time of my life where I was most productive, most creative, most innovative, most positive. And so I have my own routine here, but I've enhanced it with the Miracle Morning book. Once, there's truth is truth. And these have been around for thousands of years. But I love the S.A.V.E.R.S analogy because I think it just helps you to remember it all.
Yeah.
It just helps you remember and not make it too complicated. So I want you to delve in. To me, the way I want to describe this to people, because they're starting out the new year, people are overwhelmed. Many people had a tough year last year with the market, interest rates, those kinds of things. But to me, it's like driving a stick shift.
Yeah.
When you first are learning to drive a stick shift, it's like clutch in, brake on, gear in, clutch off, gas on. Everything is complicated and difficult. Yeah. But after a while, when you do it over and over and over again, you can be eating a sandwich, changing lanes, talking on your cell phone or whatever while it's there. And so once you do the repetition, it becomes easier. I'd love you to go through each one. I do think they're all spectacular, and when combined, I do think it is transformational, probably the most transformational process I've seen or experienced in my own life. Yeah. So I'd love you to go through, for yourself, how do you do silence? How do you do affirmations? What are the best practices on these things?
Yeah, so I think silence, meditation is, people put pressure on themselves for that to be, it's like, oh, I try to meditate, but I can't, my mind just races. I can't quiet my mind. And what people don't understand is meditation isn't getting rid of thoughts. It's observing thoughts. It's observing your mind. It's observing your emotions. Like, in one word, it's observing and then being at peace with what comes up. Right. And what you're doing is you're training yourself to be at peace with whatever comes up in life. And so by doing that in the morning, again, you're conditioning, you're training. And like you said, in the beginning, it's awkward. It's am I doing it right? You're questioning yourself. You do it over and over. And like that stick shift analogy, eventually you just go, oh, it's easy. It's like, oh yeah, I have a stressful feeling. Interesting. What's that telling me? Why is it? Oh, I'm stressed because of that thing yesterday. Oh, got it. Okay. And sometimes for me, when I'm meditating, I've got my journal right there, because if I have a insight or something I want to release, I just write it down and let it go and continue just following my breath and observing my thoughts. Right. I will tell you, Brian, one of my favorite forms of meditation that I talk about in the new edition of the book is emotional optimization meditation. So it's different from a contemplative or an observing meditation, where you actually identify what is the optimal mental or emotional state for me to be in today based on what's on my agenda, my schedule for the day. And then I walk you through in the book, how do you get yourself into that state? Maybe it's just, I want to be grateful today. I want to be happy today. Or you know what? I got a big presentation today. I really need to get confident. Or I'm serving clients today. I really need to get in a space of like love and connection with the people that I serve. Or on the weekends, it's like, all right, my kids are coming downstairs in an hour. I want to get in like playful dad mode, right? I'm going to meditate in that state. So emotional optimization meditation is identifying that optimal state, getting yourself in the state, setting your timer for 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. And it's almost as if you're marinating in that state. And what you're doing is you're hardwiring your nervous system. You're creating neural pathways so that state can become your default state. So for me, I like a blissful state. That's my default every day. It's just being in a state of love and peace and gratitude and joy. And when I do that day after day after day after day, I call it consciousness conditioning. You're conditioning your consciousness so that this new way of feeling, of experiencing life, becomes your default way of experiencing life.
Nice. A couple things I would add to that is, for me, the biggest thing that's happened with that process, that practice that I have in the mornings, is I become unattached to the thoughts. I tend to become unattached to the things during the course of the day.
Yeah.
And that's where you don't get triggered, you don't get set off, and so on and so forth. Who's your go-to person for the EOM? Who do you read, or who do you like? If you were to, somebody, it's their first time, they go, man, I've heard about silence work, I've heard about breath work, I've heard about this, I've heard about that. Who would you say is a good resource to start with?
So emotional optimization meditation is something that I made up. So I should clarify that. So I would say, I guess I'm the person I'd have to read for that.
Great.
But I will say this, for anyone that's new to meditation, right? you can do a guided meditation. So we have an app, the Miracle Morning app, that has hundreds of guided meditations.
Nice.
You can find them online for free, right? There's all sorts of options. But if you look on even YouTube, type in guided meditation, and then if you want to get specific, you can 5-minute guided meditation, or 5-minute guided meditation for happiness, or for self-confidence, or to release trauma. You name it. That, to me, if you're brand new to meditation, then I would start with a guided meditation.
Great.
And then that way someone's literally teaching you, they're training you, they're walking you through, here's what you do with your breath, here's what you think about, here's what you don't think about, here's how, right? So that's what I would recommend to start.
Brilliant. Well, Miracle Morning app is right there. Sounds like it's all done for you. That's a pretty good place to start.
Yeah.
Talk about affirmations. Right? We all know the Saturday Night Live version. This became huge in the 70s and 80s. And then it got lampooned into, I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and doggone it, people like me. Yep. I know the power of it myself. I'm curious to hear your take on it and what influence it's been for you.
I'll tell you, affirmations are my favorite form. They're my favorite of the S.A.V.E.R.S. Like, politically correct answer would probably be to say they're all equally important. Maybe so. Personally, affirmations are the anchor to me of the Miracle Morning. And here's why. I get to design in writing exactly what I need to focus on, think, believe, feel, do, and then I affirm it day after day after day after day, and I'm programming my subconscious mind and directing my conscious thoughts and behavior toward my optimal outcomes in my life. Now, the problem with affirmations, and I'll walk through how to do them, there's 2 problems. Number 1 is lying to yourself doesn't work. Right. So we've been taught by these well-meaning self-help gurus that if you're struggling financially, just affirm, I am wealthy. I am wealthy. But that's not true. And so your subconscious mind, you're creating an internal conflict. You go, this isn't true. I'm lying to myself. That doesn't work. The second problem with affirmations is this flowery passive language that we've been taught to use that is supposed to produce a magical result independent of any effort on our part. Give you an example. I am a money magnet. Money flows to me effortlessly and in abundance, right? Now, why would someone, the funny part is, Brian, I know you're laughing, and that's the wrong way to do affirmations.
I know.
But it stood the test of time because it gives people a false, delusional sense of relief. Oh my gosh, my bank account balance is negative. I need to do my affirmations and tell myself that I'm a magnet, and magically somehow everything's going to fix itself. Here are 3 steps to create affirmations that are rooted in truth, that are practical, actionable, and will generate results. Step 1, affirm what you're committed to. Don't say I am wealthy, say I'm committed to becoming wealthy, or better yet, I'm committed to increasing my income by 30% this year, or I'm committed to doing my prospecting activities every single day from 8 a.m. until noon, no matter what, whether I'm motivated or not, I'm committed to that.
Right.
In life, we get what we're committed to. Number 2, affirm why it's a must for you. Which actions will you take, right? Affirm why it is an absolute must for you. And step 3, and I got ahead of myself a second ago, affirm which actions you will take and when you will take them.
Love it.
And I'll give you a real quick real-life example, Brian. When I was diagnosed with cancer and given a 20% chance of surviving, I was obviously terrified that I was going to leave my 2 small children without a father. In fact, the doctor said there was an 80% chance that's what was going to happen. And I realized the fear wasn't serving me. So I used my entire Miracle Morning, namely the affirmations, and I affirmed, step 1, what am I committed to? I'm committed to beating cancer and living to be 100 plus years old alongside Ursula and the kids, no matter what, that there is no other option. And I affirmed that every single day until it became my reality. Number 2, affirm why it's a must for you. I'm committed to beating cancer for my wife because I promised her forever and a day. I'm committed to beating cancer for my kids because they need their daddy's love and guidance, and I want to watch them grow up and walk my daughter down the aisle. I'm committed to beating cancer for myself because I deserve to live a long, happy, healthy life. And last but not least, I'm committed to beating cancer for the millions of people who are themselves battling cancer or some other disease and may not be blessed with the knowledge and resources that I have, and it's my responsibility to overcome this, to help them overcome their challenges. Brian, that second step, why it was a must for me, those reasons were so compelling that when I was sick from chemo and I felt like giving up, that became not an option.
Right.
Because I affirmed what I was committed to, why it was a must, and then I had a list of all the specific actions I was going to take in order to beat cancer.
The power of a made-up mind.
That's it.
And then on the action side, how do you translate then? Again, it's here's what I'm committed to, here's the must, and then the actions flow from that. Like, okay, here's the daily steps I got to take.
Yeah, so let's say I'm committed to getting in the best shape of my life this year, and maybe you got a measurable goal like losing 20 pounds, right?
Right.
This is a must for me because I want to live a long, happy, healthy life. It's a must for me because I want to have energy to achieve my other goals. It's a must for me because I want to be have energy to run on my grandparent or my grandkids. So whatever your musts are, and then in order to ensure I follow through with this commitment, I will run on the treadmill or go for a walk or whatever, right? 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week from 7 a.m. to 7:30 a.m. So when it comes to that third step, it's exactly what you will do, when you will do it, and the frequency that you'll do it.
Well, that is certainly not flowery or preposterous affirmations, right? And this is, and I want to take a moment because I'm around this 40 years.
Yeah.
This is the stuff that's changed my life, this personal growth and development commitment. And then along comes someone like yourself who has an innovative view of it, a need to build it, and it takes an old truth brings something new to something old and makes it come alive. We have it spiritually. We have the name it and claim it movement in the church movement, which is, again, Jim Rohn said years ago, you must affirm what's true. You must affirm, Shaquille O'Neal, I'm a jockey. I'm a great jockey. I'm the world's greatest jockey. It's not true. It can't be true.
Yeah.
And so, committed must actions. I do believe, here's my encouragement, how I read your book, and I was thinking to myself, you need to write a book just on the affirmations alone. That was one of the thoughts I had. Because, in fact, eventually, each one of the savers is a book. You obviously know that. But the affirmations is, I believe it's the quickest, most reinforceable, mind-altering, action-altering activity you can do. I need to quiet my mind to start the day, and that's why I love the S at the beginning. But I also believe the affirmations have changed me. I grew up in Dublin, Ireland, right? And we was like, who's your man? And what do you think of that? And there was no personal growth and development growing up. It's certainly taken off there now. Yeah. But this was, when I became exposed to this, when I first came to America, it changed everything for me.
Yeah.
And so, but again, it has to be a habit. It has to be a routine. What I love about what you're doing is this committed, the must, and the actions is putting steel behind that structure. That's a sword, not a flower. Yeah. And so that's the way to go to battle. That's the way to go and pursue the good life. It's fantastic. And I commend you most for it. I'm fired up to hear you so excited about it because I do believe that can change people's lives like right away. Yeah. Let's talk about V. Another one that's been taken and beaten up and turned into goofball stuff. Talk about the V as in visualization.
Yeah, we've been taught to visualize, just see it, cut out pictures and put them on a vision board and then they'll magically come true.
Yeah.
There are two parts to the way that I teach visualization. And the first part is visualize your ideal outcome and get yourself in the state of what it will feel like to achieve it. The reason that is important is because it compels you to want to make that a vision a reality, and it actually enables you to acclimate to the belief that it's possible. For example, when I wanted to run a 52-mile ultra marathon, I had never run more than 1 mile, and that was a mile that I hated because I was forced in high school PE class. And when I started doing the Miracle Morning, it got me thinking, what's so far outside of my comfort zone that to commit to it and follow through, I would become a completely different version of myself. That became like my driving force. And I had a friend that ran a 52-mile ultramarathon. Otherwise, it never would have even entered my consciousness. But I went, okay, what if I committed to that? Like, that is so far beyond what I think is even possible for me. I'm going to commit publicly, and then I'm going to buy a book on how to train for an ultramarathon, the reading part, right? And then I created affirmations that affirmed that I was committed to run 52 miles on October 29, 2009, that why it was a must for me, which was to become the person I needed to be to achieve everything else I wanted for the rest of my life.
Yes.
And in order to follow through, I'd read the Non-Runner's Marathon Trainer, that was the book I bought, and I'd follow the training plan to a T each day, whether I felt like it or not. So those are my affirmations. Now I would spend about a minute, that's all it takes for visualization, to visualize crossing the finish line of the marathon. And by the way, I printed out a picture of the actual marathon finish line that I was going to run so I could see it. And the second part of visualization, Brian, it's the most important part. It's mental rehearsal. It's not picturing the finish line. It's running through like a movie in your mind, the thing you have to do today, the action you have to take today that will ensure that 6 months from now, 12 months from now, you're running across that finish line. You're cashing that bonus check, right? And so for me, I would close my eyes and I would imagine, I'd visualize the alarm on my phone going off at 7 a.m., which is when I committed to go for my training run. I'd visualize myself getting off my couch, walking into my bedroom closet, getting dressed in my clothes, walking through my living room, opening the front door, seeing the sidewalk, and then as I'm visualizing the sidewalk, as I'm about to go for the run, Brian, as I'm visualizing, I'd recite my affirmations one more time. I am committed to completing 52 miles on October 29th, right, all the way through, and I would get myself in this fired up, like, let's go emotional state, and then I would see myself go on the run. Here's the power in how this plays out in real time for us. At 7 a.m., when the alarm on my phone went off, had I not been visualizing every day, I would have done what 90% of human beings do, which is go, I'll just run tomorrow. I don't feel like it today, and I'd procrastinate. But I did not mentally rehearse procrastinating. So what happened, almost automatically, like I was a robot, I would go 7 a.m., stand up, walk in my bed. I just did what I rehearsed. That's the power of visualization as mental rehearsal.
It's amazing. Again, Jim Rohn, when I was 19 years of age was when I met him for the first time. Wow. And he said, Brian, you should become a millionaire for what it makes of you.
Yes.
And I didn't understand what he meant for many years. I thought, I'd like to be a millionaire for what it will make me is richer. Yeah. What I didn't understand was who you become.
That's right.
And that's, as you talk about this visualization, it's, okay, who do you have to become to be that person who can run an ultra marathon? And I think that's a brilliant concept. And that's, I think if people can visualize that, I think people can visualize the best version of themselves if they give themselves the chance. Yeah. And then it's got to align with this. We've had, whether it be this secret or all the different things, that you're going to sit in a closet and attract this stuff into your life. And again, it takes good principles like affirmation, like visualization, and then moves it into inaction. And then the reason you didn't become that was because of luck or circumstance or, COVID happened or whatever excuse that comes. And what I love about your work as a coaching company, we're all about, the series of actions that someone has to take, because we're going to check in with you in 10 days to see what you did in the actions. We've been doing it for 30 years, and it's this list of actions that people do over an extended period of time transform. Our average client makes 10 times that of their peers. And but it's over, and we've been doing it for decades. But it's the list of actions. So I had a bunch of my clients this year. You'll love this. We had a Christmas party. We brought some of our clients into our staff and so on and so forth. And it's been a tough year, especially in the real estate business. And we had these clients that just been around for a long time, and they had their best year ever. And they've been around a long time. And they said, well, we just did more activities than we did the year before, and that's why we made more than we ever made. And I just think that what I love about the Miracle Morning book, what I think is, I'm going to be downloading that app when we finish here, is that it's driven towards action. You have to have the mindset, you have to have the motivation, but you also have to have the methodologies. And that's what I see your work has all three. Let's delve in at the exercise, right? All across the board, a million pieces on this, but what is the relevance and importance of exercise for the overall miracle to take place?
Yeah, our physical body and our mental and emotional well-being and our mental clarity, right? It's all interconnected. And so the idea that you don't need to go to the gym in the morning, as I mentioned earlier, you got to move your body though. And at the very least, imagine it could be as little as 60 seconds of jumping jacks, right? Or like
Yep.
a brisk walk. On days, my exercise in the morning is usually 5 to 10 minutes, and it's stretching, it's some jumping jacks, it's push-ups, it's it's yoga, it's really easy movements. But the point is, you're getting the blood flowing through your entire body. You're waking up your nervous system. You're getting blood and oxygen to your brain, right? When you start breathing heavy, even in 60 seconds of jumping jacks, right? Your mental clarity goes from a 2 or a 3 when you drug yourself out of bed to now a 7 or 8 because you got the blood flowing and the oxygen flowing. So that's the idea, is you don't have to do a full-blown workout, but you just got to move your body for a few minutes in the morning to get that going. And some people, if you're sitting down for your miracle morning and you just slept on the wrong side of the bed and you're waking up tired, throw your E at the front. And that's an important lesson. The S.A.V.E.R.S don't have to be done in order. You can do them in any order that serves you. But the E will go at the front for me if my mind's not right.
Right. And based on circumstances and, like I say, travel and interruption and whatever else. I do think it's a brilliant way to remember it. Let's talk about the R and the S, right? Because I feel those two go together. But the reading and the
reading
scribing
is just like the exercise. It's not rocket science, but the idea that if anyone says, I don't know how to blank, you're one book away from knowing how to blank, how to transform your marriage, how to increase your income, how to wake up early and start your day in an optimal way, right? Whatever it is. I have a little self-imposed rule where I have to read a parenting or a marriage book in the morning before a business book because I got to remind myself my wife and kids, those are my highest priority. And so I'm going to invest in learning how to be the best father and husband I can for them first. And then I can read a business book. And then last but not least is scribing, which is, again, fancy word for journaling. But the power of putting pen to paper, I don't know the statistic. 30,000 thoughts a day, 60,000 thoughts a day.
Right.
We can all agree we have a lot of thoughts. And our thoughts have no rhyme or reason. They're often very random. And you could be having a really positive thought, and then a fearful thought comes and knocks it out, knocks it out of the park. But when you put your thoughts in writing, you force a heightened level of clarity that allows you to work through challenging thoughts and to solidify positive thoughts. What I do every morning is I write down 2 to 3 things I'm grateful for, and I put my hand on my heart, and I feel that gratitude. Then I look at my to-do list, and it usually has 10, 12 things on it. I ask myself, what's the number one thing that I'm going to commit to doing today off this list that holds the most weight and moves the needle in my life or business the most? Not the easiest thing, the most important thing. And then I do the same thing for number 2 and number 3. And I've got to get those 3 activities, those actions done in order of priority to earn the right to move on to the others.
Interesting. That's great. So I'll give you, and again, I know you have a million people doing this. How I like to do this is I like to start with the contemplative prayer, which is the silence.
Yeah.
I like to then go to the reading, and then for the journaling or scribing, I start with what I was processing from the day before, which is what I did.
Yeah.
How I felt. So what I thought, what I felt, what I did. And I just kind of, so I don't lose that day.
Yeah, that reflection is powerful.
And then what it does is it gives me a perspective, okay, and then I finish up with, and my commitment for today is. So that's kind of how I have interpreted all these things myself. But it's, again, this all sounds like, oh my gosh, who has time for this? But the truth of the matter is, now I'll share with you how, and I'm at it a long time. I've been in business a long time. So what I've kind of done with my assistant is, my meetings don't start till after 9:30.
Yeah.
Ever. And most times it's 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
And so because I want to get all this stuff, I also throw a cold shower in here, which has been, Wim Hof has become a guy who's been influential for me, and it's been helpful. And when I do it all, it is, I finish with the shower and I'm off the door, I'm out the door and I'm ready for bear. And it's, what I would say for me is that it has increased my capacity It allows me to go through the day, and it's kind of like Chumbawamba. I get knocked down, but I get up again. It just makes you very resilient.
Yeah.
And I think it also allows me to enjoy the process and be more enjoyable as well. I'm a father of 6 kids. My bride and I have been married 35 years. Ursula sounds amazing. But the fact is, like, it doesn't just make you productive. It doesn't just make you wealthy. It doesn't just make you more successful. It doesn't just make you fitter. It makes you a better human being.
That's
and
it.
that's the miracle. That's
Yep.
the miracle. And we all need a little bit of that. You know, it's so fantastic. I love how the freshness you brought to this. It is oftentimes these types of things are built out of the humility that comes from experiencing setbacks. And you've had some major ones in your life, and to turn each one of them, and it's like, to me, it's like in God's providence. Sometimes he breaks you down to build you up. You know, it's that's where the humility comes from. We could go all day, and I'm just going to encourage people as well. I have a chance. This is the first book I read in 2025. It's the Miracle Morning book, and I highly recommend it. You're listening to Hal here this morning, and it's full of not just passion and authority, but you can tell it's practice. He's living this, and it shows in his countenance, it shows in his life, and it's also, well, you want to know why this guy's being successful? Well, you're hearing it, because he's actually practicing what he preaches. Hal, I'd encourage people to get the app. It sounds fantastic. I'm going to dive in there myself right after this little recording is done. I'd love you to, we'd love to have you in a couple of other settings. We have some events and things that we'd love to have you come.
I'd love that, Brian. It'd be great
to do that. But let me finish up with 5 rapid fire questions we've asked everybody. Just give us a little different perspective on Hal. They need to get the book to get the rest of the system, and rightly so. So what is the single best piece of advice you've ever been given, Hal?
Do the right thing, not the easy thing. And that's been the guiding principle, which I've evolved that to what I call impeccable morality, or what would Jesus do? Right? It's for me, it's the highest standard of morality. And yeah, but it started when I was 19, when my mentor said the key to success is in every choice that you make every day, from the food you're going to order off the menu, to whether you're going to pick up that phone and call those prospects or not, is to do the right thing, which is the thing that moves you closer to your goals that you committed to, not the easy thing.
Whose was your mentor?
J. Brad Britton, who was my Cutco manager.
Oh, wow. God bless. Cutco trained a lot of great salespeople.
Yeah,
That's what I got to say this. Yep. Well, it's do the right thing, not the easy thing is a powerful thing. Les Brown says, if you do what is easy, your life will be hard. But if you do what's hard, your life will be easy. What one talent or gift do you wish you possessed that you currently don't?
Being able to, I guess, detail-oriented. I'm not detail-oriented, right?
Really?
You usually either are or you aren't. But I think that's if I could really manage and remember details, that would be helpful.
Okay. Well, my family calls me a little OCD, so I'm not sure. I might be on the other end of the spectrum. So I'm like, you strike me as a guy who's very detail-oriented. That's cool. Yeah. What book has been most instrumental in your life?
That's a good one. If I go back to the Power of Now was a real shift in my consciousness, right?
Yeah.
To learn how to really accept life exactly as it is, including all the challenges I had gone through, and be completely at peace with life as it is at all times. And so, The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle was a big one.
Yeah, great. What movie do you watch over and over again? You're scrolling through the channels, it's on, you always stop. What's that one that gets you?
Well, honestly, I've probably seen the Miracle Morning documentary more than any other movie. That sounds narcissistic, but it's just because I study that movie. We filmed a documentary. But what other movie do I love? I like any movie with the Will Ferrell, Vince Vaughn, like swingers, old school wedding singers. I would have to categorize that whole group of movies as my favorites.
Yeah, well, Will Ferrell's he's not too shabby.
Yeah.
What does a good life mean to Hal Elrod? What does a good life mean to you?
Living in alignment with your values. Yeah. For me, my family means more to me than anything, and especially having gone through that cancer journey and coming, really close to losing them. And so now my work day is similar to you. My work day is from 9 to 3 because I take my daughter to school between 8 and 9, and then I pick my son up between 3 and 4, right? So, and it's really only working while they're in school. I've really tried to arrange my life and my work so that I'm only working when they're at school. And if they're not in school and they're available, then I'm available to connect with them.
Amazing. Well, what fabulous work you're doing. And it's just been an honor and a privilege to not only get to know you, but also for me, I'm coming away from this where I've seen the benefits of this type of process throughout my life. This is sharper and even more directed. And I just think it's fantastic. And I think it's been a blessing to so many people. And you've turned tragedy into triumph. I think the book is that type of dynamic. And, I'm actually going to dedicate today's broadcast to a good friend of mine named Jimmy Lundgren. And Jimmy Lundgren's was the assistant coach for USD volleyball. They went to the Final Four. He's on the coach for the Olympic women's team. Got a head-on collision before Christmas.
Oh.
Guy came down, I believe under the influence, came down the freeway the wrong way, hit him at 65, full head-on. 2 broken ankles, tibia, fibia, femur, pelvis, broken ribs, spleen and colon ripped open. And a miracle he's alive.
Yeah.
But a guy not unlike Hal Elrod, and who is, I would say, going to listen to this, dissect your book, dissect that app, do it about as well as anybody ever has, and maybe he comes out of this the way you just did. And that's why this kind of tragedy to triumph can be done by really excellent practice. And so, Hal, I appreciate you sharing your story so much, but also all of your gifts and your insights. I wish you the very best, a good luck. And like I talked to you about, we'll definitely be talking about, I'd love you to introduce you. We have many, many audiences that I think would like to see you in person. I think I'd like to hear a little bit more of you myself.
I would love that, Brian. And it's, you exceeded my expectations. I've heard great things about you, but you're a phenomenal human being, man. So thank you for having me, and just thank you for all the work that you do and the impact that you've made in countless lives.
Thank you. Well, I will say we don't do long-form podcasts here today. I am regretting that decision. I would like to have talked to you for 3 hours, but I'll continue to read, and hopefully our paths can cross here at some of these events. With that said, I want to wish every one of you just a great new year. I think this S.A.V.E.R.S approach here with the Miracle Morning can help you do that. I wish you the very best. And to sign off here today, she's fighting the good fight herself over there in Dublin, my 94-year-old mom. She's got a blessing for every one of you going into the new year. Here's to you, Therese.
May the road rise up to meet you, and may the wind always be at your back. May the rain fall soft upon your fields, and the sun shine warm upon your face. And until we meet again, may God hold you in the hollow of his hand. See you next time.